Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, Hayemi, CHULLIN, Daf Daled. We are on Gimel Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Tanu Rabbanan, we begin with a brisa regarding a kuti. So the kutim were an interesting group of people who were transplanted, I should say, from Kuta, a place called Kuta, that's why they were kutim, over into Eretz Yisrael, into Judea, where Shalmaneser, right? He's the one who brought them over to populate the land, to populate Eretz Yehuda, and they were, of course, goyim, but eventually they went through some sort of experience where they converted. There were lions that were sent at them, and according to our perspective, according to our Gemara right now, we are of the opinion that the kutim are considered genuine, real, legitimate gerim. However, they were only meticulous regarding matters that are found in Torah Shebechsav and the actual psukim. They were very literal people. They didn't adhere to the directives, explanations, and customs that were established by the Chachamim. So they didn't go with Torah Sheba'al Peh, only Torah Shebechsav. And the question is whether we can rely on their shechita. So we discussed this, we touched on this slightly yesterday. According to Abaye, you could, provided that he's under constant supervision. There's a yid monitoring his act of shechita. According to Rava, that's not necessary, to that extent. Even nichnas v'yotze is enough, going in and out, coming in, unannounced. That would be enough to provide that deterrent and ensure a proper shechita. Tanu Rabbanan, we have a discussion based on a brisa regarding a shechita's kuti. Muteres. Shechita of a kuti is permissible for consumption. B'amed devarim amurim. When is that true? Only kishi Yisrael oimed al gabav. Is Yisrael watching over him, supervising his activity. Aval bo matzah sheshachat. Suppose it comes after the fact, too late. It's after the shechita. How do you know whether or not the basar is mutter? Well, you do that test that we discussed yesterday. We know that the kuti wouldn't eat the nevela for himself, but he wouldn't care about you. Because although the pasuk speaks about lifnei iver, lo yisite and mirshal, you're not meant to present a stumbling block in front of a blind man lest he fall. But they learned it literally. Yeah, in front of a blind man you can't, but spiritual tripping is okay. So they wouldn't care about feeding you something forbidden, but they themselves would not engage in something which was asur. So you do that test. Take off a kazayis of that meat. You offer it, you serve it to the kuti. You see if the kuti himself will eat it. Right? If he eats it, mutor, lechal, mishchetasi can follow and eat the shchita, it's okay. But otherwise, if he, starts playing, not now, later, then, there's a problem. Asur, lechal, mishchetasi, you shouldn't touch the stuff. Okay, so another example would be matzah b'yadai. So he walks in and he counters the kuti, clutching in his hand the kuria. We shift to dal damanal. The kuria shal tziparim, a bundle of birds. Okay, like a chain of birds. Machroize shal tziparim, Rashi says, like a strung together. Okay. And you don't know their status, was it shechted properly or not. So you do this test. Maybe you remove one of the heads. You take a piece of the bird, and you offer him that sample. But nicely, you give it to the kuti. Achli eats it, mutar, lechel, mishchetasa. You know the stuff is permissible of imla, but if he doesn't, asur lechel mishchetasa, you shouldn't touch that material. Okay, so the brisa discussed 2 scenarios. In the first case, there was monitoring. Israel was oimed al gabav throughout the entire shechita, and that's okay. And the safe on the next part of the brisa, we have the other extreme, where he came after the fact, and it's permissible by way of this sampling procedure. Now, Abaye and Rava both learned the brisa as reflective of their positions. Abaye is the one who says you need constant supervision, and therefore Abaye daik mireisha. Abaye dwelled on the first part of the brisa and used that to support his opinion. Whereas Rava, who suffices with just, in and out monitoring, Diak Miseifa, his focus was on the next part of the brisa. Let's see. Abaye Diak Mireisha. Abaye focused on the first part, where it says You need constant monitoring. Taima. When do we say it's permissible? The Yisrael Oimid al Gabav, the Yisrael standing right there on site, constantly watching. Aval Yaitzev v'Nichlas, when really coming in and out, Lord, that wouldn't be enough. That's a right to my position that you need Mashgiach Tmidi. On the other hand, Rava Deik Miseifa. Rava went to the Seifa as the starting point. Look, the issue only begins when he comes after the fact. He wasn't there at all during the Shechita. Then you have to do the sampling system. Time, it's only the Bo Matzah Sheshachad, he comes in after the Shechita. Aval Yoitzev v'Nichlas, we can infer from here. If he comes in and out, Aval Yoitzev v'Nichlas, that's okay. That's just as good as Amashgiach Tamidi, Shavar Dami, that's okay. So we have two conflicting inferences in the Brisa. How is each one going to address the other ones? Well, Abaye, who focused on the first part of the Brisa and dwelled from there, and derived from there, that you need to have continuous supervision, Kashya Seifa. How is he going to accommodate and resolve the second part of the Brisa, which sounds like the issue is only if you miss the whole story, but if you come in and out, it's okay. Amalach, he'll explain to you, look, Yoitzev v'Nichnas Nami, likewise, coming in and out, they're just as bad as finding him after the fact. But Umatzai, Karilei. The Brisa refers to it as though he comes in after the fact and discovers it shechted. Just as bad. The only way to ensure proper shechita is continuous supervision. Ula Rava Kashi Reish, on the other hand, Rava, who dwelled on the second part of the Brisa to indicate that, well, only after the fact it's an issue, but if you come in and out during the act itself, it's sufficient. Kashi Reisha. To him, the Reisha will be difficult, where it sounds like only constant full-time supervision works. Amalach. So again, he turns it around and he says, well, issue is only after the fact, but let's say he's coming in and out just as good as standing over him, it's on the same level. And when the Brisa says Oimid al Gamav, it didn't mean necessarily he has to be standing there 24. In and out is enough because his presence is felt all the time. And Kayetze boy. We continue to the next part of the Brisa. Okay, so we pretty much resolved this issue. Abaye stuck to his position and Rava to his. The Brisa continues with the case of the birds. Kayetze boy, in similar fashion, you can do a sampling system with the birds. Matzah b'yadei, the Korishat Siparim, he discovers those birds. He samples a piece and offers it to the Shaykhet. Kateya Reisha v'chul. Amai. Ask the Gemara, how is that going to prove anything? Maybe it so happens he lucked out that this particular bird was shechted properly. I mean, he has a collection of 10 birds. Maybe 9 were not done well. Only the 10th one, which he happened to sample from, was okay. You never know. Leichosh. Why aren't we concerned, Dilma, perhaps, this particular bird, who Dahava Shachid Shafar was properly shechted, but the rest not. Amar Vanasha. Machnisan Tachas Knafav. The Yisrael will now take the entire bunch, hide it under his jacket, and pull out a sample. This way the kuti will never know which one it came from. And if he eats it, then the entire bunch is okay. Maybe the Shaykha, the kuti, had some sort of way to identify. He had a simon on this particular bird, this particular piece of meat, which was shechted properly. So perhaps again, as chance would have it, he serves him that kosher piece, and it's not an indication on the rest. Amar Rav Misharshia was speaking to Masmis Lemasmusi. He squished the whole thing together. It's no longer identifiable. It's not recognizable. And if the sheikh will now eat it, even that sample, it's a raya that proves the kashrus of the rest. Says the Gemara, "V'dilma kasavri kutim ein shchita leif min haTorah." Maybe it doesn't prove anything. Why is the kuti eating improperly shechted birds? If so, right? Because they hold that there is no requirement to do shchita on birds. There's no source in the Torah shebechsav that one must shecht birds, only animals. Rashi brings the pasuk, "Zavachta bebekorcha mitzayncha," animals. So we in Torah Shebal Peh apply shchita to birds as well, based on a hekesh. Rashi brings the hekesh. Zois ha-teres ha-behema ve'ha'oif. The pasuk connects and compares animals to birds, but they don't hold of the drashis of these types of elaborations of Torah Shebal Peh. So perhaps the bird is a dead bird, unshechted. He's eating it because he couldn't care. Well, Tamech, according to what you're saying, even by an animal, Okay, they do shchita, but what type of shchita? I mean, the Torah says shchita, but what exactly is shchita? We need to learn for that, right? All those different elements that can disqualify a shchita, that one has to be, be careful and address. Shahiyah, delaying, tarrying during the shchita, darsa, squishing too hard, chalada, slipping the knife, hagrama, all these disqualifying, elements within a shchita. Maybe it happened. Maybe the kuti is unaware and uncaring about this. Miksivan, are they actually sourced in the Torah Shebechsav? So how could you rely on a kuti for shchita of an animal? Ella, the reason must be like this. Kivan achsikibu. Achsikibu. Since we see that they adopted these customs, they do shchita properly, so we assume they continue on that path and they're going to do it properly. Hachinami here as well, when it comes to birds, the fact is, once we see that they shech birds properly, we assume they'll, continue on that track. So once it's been established, they have a chazak, that they adhere to these principles, so we don't need to confirm it by, time-by-time basis. We can just rely on it and assume it's okay. Says the Gemara, actually, this concept of relying on the chazak of the kutim, on their actual practices, being okay, without an actual source in the Torah, is really subject to machlekes tanoim. You never know, they might one day decide not to take it seriously because they can't find the source in the Torah for it, right? So to rely on the kutim just because they're doing it properly and to assume they'll continue doing it properly, that's really a shaila. It's a machlekes tanoim. Achziku v'achsuk v'lo yachsuk. Whether it's called a chazaka or not called a chazaka. But the liksiva, in a matter which has no written source, tanoi is machlekes tanoi. This time you have a braysa regarding matzah's kusi. Okay, so the kuti serves you some matzah. Mutaras. It's presumed to be permissible, presumed to be not chametz material. That's number one. And also, on a positive sense, you can use it at your seder to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, which needs not just not chametz, it needs to be, has to be matzah shemura, guarded for the sake of them, right? So the kuti can be relied on for both these elements. A, that it's not chametz. B, that it's matzah shemura, guarded for this purpose. Shimur l'shem matzah shel mitzvah, right? You go to a bakery and say l'shem matzah is mitzvah. What's the point? The point is, first of all, basic that you ensure that it's not chametz, but l'shem matzah is mitzvah means a step above that. There's a positive element of guarding it, preparing it for the sake of mitzvah use. So the matzah of a kusi is assumed to have both elements. It's not chametz and it's matzah shemura. Matzah's kusi muteres, that's the first thing. V'adam yaitze ba yidei chayvas. Pesach, a person can fulfill his obligation by eating this matzah. That's the Tanakh. Why? Because the kutim are known to make good matzahs. They can be relied upon for that. Rabbi Elazar Oyser says, no way, keep away from it. Not only can't you use it for the seder, you can't even touch it. It's chametz. You never know what they did. They're not learned. They're not versed in the various intricacies of mitzvahs, of matzah, of preventing, chametz. Keep away from it. So it's the other side of the spectrum. Tanakh says, enjoy it for the mitzvah. Allah says, don't even touch it. It's chametz. Rabbi Shimon Leil Omer, he says like this. It depends. Called mitzvah shechziku b'kusim. If you find that there's a mitzvah that the kusim actually adopted and practice it, you should know, interestingly, harbi medatikim b'yesim Yisrael. They are going to be more meticulous in adhering to the diktukim, to the details of the mitzvah more than Israel. So sometimes a kusi could be even on a higher status. He doesn't do everything, but whatever he does all the way, right? Now it sounds like the Tanakh speaking, right? You can trust them, you can eat their matzah. The Gemara will ask in a minute, isn't he just repeating Tanakh's opinion? Okay, let's go back and review the brayso. We start with the Tanakama, over to Rabbi Eliezer, over to Shimon Gamliel. Matzah's kusi muteres, right? V'adam yaitzeba yidich vasar pesach. Ask the Gemara, well, pshita. Isn't that obvious? I mean, if you say that it's mutter, which means to say that it's not going to be chametz, so why would you use it for the mitzvah? Well, that's not so simple. Maldatema, perhaps, I would say, although they guard it from becoming matzah, but they're not so cognizant of this idea of l'shem matzah's mitzvah, right? Lo b'ki b'shimur, they're not aware, they're not ones to do shmir l'shem for the sake of matzah's mitzvah. Kamashman, the point is yes. That you can rely on them even on this. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, Eiser, he forbids consuming this material. What does he hold? Kasara, he holds, they're not bucky. They're not knowledgeable. Even on the basics of guarding the matzah from becoming chametz, so you have to assume the worst. Rabbi Shimon Leimer, kol mitzvah sheichzike bo kutim, something that the kutim adopted, you can be rest assured that they'll keep it all the way. Harbi medak tekin bo yosim Yisrael. Now, Hainu Tanakam, isn't he just echoing Tanakama's opinion? They're both saying the same thing. You can use it for the mitzvah. Oh, so there must be some point of difference here. Let's find a point of contention. So apparently the difference between the Tanakama and the Shmuel Gamliel is the ksiva v'lechzikiba. If there's a mitzvah which is sourced in the Torah Shebechsav, but we don't know whether the Kutim have actually adopted it as part of their, practice. That'll be the nafkamina. That'll be the difference. Can we rely on them on that or not? It's in the Torah, but we don't know if they actually keep it. Tanakama Savar, Tanakama's of the opinion, Kivan Dechsiva, look, if it's in the Torah, we can assume they adhere to it. Even though you don't know. You don't have confirmation that they actually adopted it. And that's why their matzah is presumed to be okay. Okay? However, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Savari holds, even when something is sourced in the Torah like matzah, you have to confirm beforehand whether or not they're actually doing it. If they have adopted it in, yeah, they can rely on them. Otherwise, no. Okay, so Shimon Gamliel is being more strict, more stringent. He says, if that's his point, the wording doesn't really fit, because he responds by saying, Kol mitzvah, kutim, any mitzvah the kutim adopted, which sounds like he's being expansive. All the mitzvahs, I'm including more. He should have said if. If anything, he's minimizing. He's saying, well, don't be so sure, you never know. Only if it was huchsak, then we trust him. You're right, says the Gemara. Apparently that's not the point of machlekes. We have to tweak it. Ella, rather, ika binayu. The difference between the two opinions will be like this. The loik siva vechsikba. Just the opposite. Something which they were machzikman, we know that they practice, despite it not really having a clear source in the Torah. It's the loik siva, but vechsikba. Tanakama holds. Tanakama saw kiven loik siva. If it's not in the Torah, it doesn't work. You can't believe them. You can't trust them. Even though we see that they're doing it, you can't trust them in that. Why? Today they're keeping it. Tomorrow the new clergy leader will come along and say, well, it's not the Torah, we have to modify it. So you can never know where it's going. So that's why he points to matzah. He says, matzah, yeah, that's okay, because that's in the Torah. So whether or not they actually practice, you can trust them. But the exact opposite, if it's not in the Torah but they keep it, that's not enough for us. However, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Sabar, he disagrees. He says, no, it's all about what they're practicing. Once they're practicing it, they've been established, they've been confirmed, they're to be relied upon, they're not likely to change that conduct. Right? So according to our conclusion now, we have machlekes tanoim in this regard. When it's not sourced in the Torah, but there is a chazaka that they're keeping it, Tanakama says you can't count on it. Likewise, by the shechita of the bird, which is not mefurish in the Torah, you can't count on them, whereas Rav Shmuel says you could. And the previous brisa apparently is going like him. Once there's an established track record, you see they're doing it, they're adopting it, they're pre-keeping it, you can rely on them. Okay, continues the Gemara Gufa. Let's go back and review what we discussed yesterday. So let's shift over to the story of the Mumar. Amar Rava. Rava has a chidush, Yisrael Mumar, a fellow who is a deviant, a renegade. He does not adhere to certain halachas. So he's oichel nevelos. He has no hesitation eating a nevela, non-kosher meat, but it wasn't as a matter of ideology. He's not opposed to eating kosher. As a matter of convenience. It's rooted in desire. So he's driving down the road and he's hungry. He'll have right. He won't wait until he finds kosher food. But he's not opposed. He's not doing it in spite. So in this case, we assume that he would be agreeable to eating kosher food if he has available. So you can trust him on that. Boidek, sakin, v'noisen loy. You can check the knife, ensure that it's a properly, it's a smooth knife without any chips. Kosher for shechita, v'noisen loy. He hands it to the mumar, and he can trust him that he did a proper shechita. Why not? If he has the option to do it easily, why not? Umutar lechem shechita, so you can eat from his shechita. My time, why? How can you trust him? If he himself is uncareful in these matters, since he has an equal option. He has a knife, he has an animal, he can choose to shecht it properly and have kosher food, right? Or be lazy and make it treif, right? Why would he? If he has the option, if he has the opportunity, of course. He doesn't mind eating kosher food. Even the he wouldn't forego the opportunity for kosher food, kosher meat, and insist on eating isur. So you can trust him that it was a kosher shechita. If that's the case, then why bother checking the knife? Just give him the knife, let him check it, and rely that he's not a fellow that likes to put in effort. He's l'tayavin. He's all about pleasure and convenience. So if it involves any effort on his part, like checking the knife, he's not going to be matriach making the effort to do that. But if you give him a proper kosher knife, you can trust him on the shechita. Amru le Rabban le Rava. So Rabbanan presented Rava with a raya. Tanya de Mesailach. We have a raya from a brisa to prove your point. The brisa is speaking about chametz after Pesach. Chamtzon shel oivre avira achara Pesach. So you have a chametz that belonged to an oivre avira. Rashi says she'en mevarin chametz bepesach hefseda. A fellow couldn't resist the temptation, he couldn't withstand the nisayan foregoing his valuable merchandise, his chametz, so he couldn't let go of it. He held on to it on Pesach. Now it's chametz of Yisrael, which experienced Pesach in the hands of Yisrael. So after Pesach, it should be asur b'hana. You can. Says the brisa, achara Pesach, we shift to on the base, mutar miyad. You can have it right away, no problem. What do you mean? How? Because he flipped it. He flipped it with the supermarket. Because look, it's an easy solution. Why would he not do that to avoid isser? I mean, he can't bring himself to forego, to sacrifice for the mitzvah. But if it comes easy, why not make a quick flip with the goy, take his merchandise instead of mine, and then he has kosher. Okay, so even though there isn't enough time to bake new material, we assume he just flipped it, he swapped it with the non-Jewish supplier. So here's an example of a fellow who's in effect a mumar. He's not adhering to the halacha of chametz Pesach, but it's l'tayavain. It's because of personal interest, financial interest, right? So we assume that if he has an easy way out, he will avoid feeding us something which is inappropriate, which is very similar to the case of the shechita being done by the mumar l'tayavin. Now, Savru, we're not finished with the raya. Let's continue. Savru, so the Bnei Yeshiva presented this raya. They figured, Hamani, who's speaking in this brisa? Meaning, whose shita is this connected to? Rabbi Yehuda. It's going like him. The Amur says that in Torah you cannot consume chametz after Pesach, which was in the hands of Yisrael. Chamet, Amar Chametz Achar Pesach, D'Oraisa Uktani. And still the Brisa says, no problem, we assume he flipped it. Amos, what do we see from here? Even this fellow, who's not a compliant fellow, would not forego an opportunity to have heter if he can arrange for it easily. The same with the meat. Is that a raya? No, Mimai, who says? Perhaps this price is Rab Shimon. The Amar who says it's not really a Doiraisa concern. The Amar Chametz Achar Pesach is only the Rabbanon. So and that's why we're lenient. Why are we lenient? But the Rabbanon, because only it's a Rabbanon, so we assume he swapped, even though we don't have confirmation. You know. It's like a suffix the Rabbanon, right? We go L'Kula. But let's say it would be really a true Doiraisa, like Chametz, if it would be Doiraisa, or like the Nevela, which is Doiraisa, Doiraisa, who says we can take this lenient approach? Well, but you have an Reb Shimon. Let's say you're right, it's Reb Shimon speaking. We can still prove from here. Why? Miktani, Shani, Omer Yachlifu. Does the Brisa then say, well, I know that he flipped it? Shani Omer means that I speculate, I suggest that it's really an unknown, and I assume so. Doesn't say that. Because we know, we're certain, we're confident that they swapped the material. It's not a suffix, and it will be only a suffix to Rabban L'Kula. It's a vada. We assume so. It's an assumption that we can work on. Why? Work with. Why? Because why would he not do that if you can avoid Isser? That's the running assumption here. Now, actually, there's even a bigger proof to Rava. Why? Look, even by B'derabbanan, where the whole issue is only the Rabbanan Chametz after Pesach, Lo Yishavek HaTeira V'Chal Yisura, the Mumar would not forego an opportunity for heter and opt for Isser. Certainly when it comes to an issue of Nevela B'Deiraisa, like Koshkin, of course. If anything, we just flipped it around to our advantage, to bring a right to Rava. That even a Mumar L'Tei Oven, for Nevela, can be trusted to do a proper shechita if it's arranged for him in a convenient way. Again, perhaps I have another right to this point from the next price. First of all, everybody can do shechita. Afilu kuti. Next, afilu oral, even a fellow who has no milah. Third, afilu Yisrael mumar, even Yisrael who's a renegade. Now, what's the middle case talking about? Hay oral hechadami. What do you mean he has no milah? Was it simply circumstantial due to a family medical history of hemophiliac? So maybe is that the reason? What would be the issue in that? Why even discuss the high Yisrael Malu is a proper Yisrael? Nothing wrong with him. He would love to do milah. He can't. Apparently we're speaking about a fellow who took a position against milah. Rashi says, Mevayit b'mitzvazu. He's unwilling, uninterested, he's opposed. And still, what does the Brisa say? Because the Brisa apparently holds mumar lever echad. A fellow who's mumar regarding one specific issue, like milah in this case, well, you have a mumar l'chol Torah is not considered a fellow who rejects the whole Torah. So he's kosher for shechita. That's a right to Rava's idea. Even though he's neglectful of shchuta, mitzvah of shchuta, you can still trust him. Okay, Sefer. Let's proceed to the next case in the Brisa, case 3. Afil Yisrael Mumar. Even Yisrael Mumar can do shechita. What type of mumar are we talking about? Either mumar we're talking about a mumar for one thing. You just told me about it. Why repeat the same case again? Hainu mumar la reilas. That's like the previous case of the oral. El la mumar is a davar. Oh. Clearly we're talking about a different type of mumar, a unique mumar. A mumar for this matter. He's uncareful in hilchas kashrus and in eating kosher meat. Uka de Rava. And this supports Rava's point that even this type of mumar can be trusted for shechita if it comes easy. No, perhaps we can switch pshat in the Brisa. We're not talking about a mumar for nevela, because you can't trust that person. Why my time? Why? Given the dashbei, since he's accustomed, he's habitually neglecting shchuta, he's going to eat nevela. Ketera damile. To him, it feels like it's okay. right? The famous Gemara of Huna, right? In the Yuma. Person repetitively does an Avera, he perceives it as something permissible. He lowers his, his standards to avoid, feeling guilty. He frames it as something okay. So a person who's neglectful in this very matter, you can't trust him on that. Ella, mummer, rather, when the Brisa speaks about a mummer to be trusted, that's talking about a mummer who's doing Avodah Zarah. As severe as Avodah Zarah is, it does not disqualify him from Shechita. Even though he's mummer Avodah Zarah, you can still trust him for Shechita. Mutu lechem Shechitas. Guf. Okay, let's go back to this. Halacha Rav Shmuel Yisrael mummer Kechavim. Mutu lechem Shechitas. And he's giving an interesting ride from history. We find Shafat was a righteous king, Melech Yehuda. Shenana Mesudas Achav, he partook in Achav's meal when they served him meat. And Achav, as we know, was an idol worshipper. Shenamar, what do we find out? Beizbach like Achav, so Achav feasted him, he presented him with a whole banquet. Tzoyin, Ubakal Arayv, for him and his entourage. And he used that as a springboard, as a way to convince him to come and join him at war. He sort of convinced him, coerced him, to go up and join him in the war. Apparently Shafat partook in the meat that was offered him by Achav, despite being an Avodah Zarah. Says the Gemara, well, hold it, who says? He actually ate, maybe it was just perhaps Achav shechted the animals and offered him the meal, but he didn't eat. There were no takers. He didn't eat. It says which typically takes place, happens through a meal, a joint meal. They sit together, a business lunch, and that's how he got him to do it. Perhaps it just means that he verbally convinced him. Who says they actually joined together in a meal? Ein hasasa b'dvarim. The term hasasa typically relates to a meal time, not just verbal convincing. V'loi, really? The pasuk says, Kisischa be'achicha. Your brother will convince you to worship idols. We're not talking about a meal. B'achilu v'shtiya. Actually, yeah. We're talking about that they join together. B'achilu v'shtiya in a mealtime experience. What do you mean? There's a pasuk in Eiv, but this is Seini. Hashem is speaking to the Satan. You have convinced me to go against Eiv, boy levalei chinam, to strike him for no an unjustified strike. Now Hashem certainly doesn't partake in meals, and still the word basasiseyu, that term, that phrase is being used. Yeah, you're right. Lamal Shani. It's different when we talk about Hashem, but when we talk about humans, the way to engender a relationship and the way to get your person on your side, it's typically through achilu v'shtiya experience. Okay, so maybe he drank his wine, but not his meat. Perhaps he drank his wine, but meichal, to eat his meat, that perhaps he didn't. Says the Gemara, but that would also prove the same point, because wine from an Avodah Zarah is also problematic. Why would drinking wine be okay? Because apparently you're going to say, Mumar laviz kechavim, lo yahav mumar chal terah kula. That despite him being committed to Avodah Zarah, does not deem him a mumar for everything, and therefore his wine is not considered wine of a guy. You can drink it. Well, then the same exact formula will be applied to his meat, right? Same with eating his meat. Mumar, despite the fact that he's connected with the Zarah, will have a mumar, doesn't have a status of a mumar for every chal terah kula. So again, that circles back to our point that you can trust the shechita. No, you can't compare the two. Shia, in terms of his drinking the wine, we don't know that it was poured by the Zarah. It's unspecified. It's undefined. It's called stam yenan. The stam wine of a guy today is usher, right? But just get facts straight. We're not talking about real wine of a Zarah. Stam yenan. It was just stam yenan. Stam yenan. At that point in history, there was no ban issued yet on stam yain of even a guy or of idol worshippers. So he was free to drink the wine at that point. But concerning consuming his meat, perhaps we can say, a fellow who was committed to Avodah Zarah, It's like he rejected the entire Torah, and just like by a guy, you can't eat a shechita, right? As we went the other day, right? Only a person who's connected to the Torah, you can't eat the shechita of a guy, and likewise, a fellow who opposes the whole Torah, he has that same status. So back to our raya. We assume that Yeshafat did partake in the meal. Doesn't that prove Rav Anan Amar Shmuel's point? Even a fellow who's committed to idol worship does not disqualify him from doing shechita. Ibo Yisema. One second. So then we had a kasha. No, it's not clear. We had a kasha. Maybe only drank the wine and not the meat. So we have two responses, which will now confirm our right, because we're going to prove that he did eat. Ibo Yisema. One response is, look, it's unlikely. Lav urchi de malka. It's not the practice of a king. To eat, to drink, just sit down and have a drink without outside a meal. If he's sitting down to drink, it's going to be part of the mealtime experience. So apparently he did share the meat, and that confirms our point. But you say another answer, the pasuk says he slaughtered, he did the shechita, and that's how he convinced. But how did the act of hasasa take place? How did he coerce him? How did he, win him over? Bizvicha, by way of offering the zvicha, the meat that was shechted. Okay, fine. So you've established that they ate. But who would the shechtim? You're assuming it was Achav? No. V'dilma Ivadia Zavach. Avadia, who was a servant of Achav, was a righteous man. Maybe he was the kitchen manager and he did the shechita. And it's okay. L'roiv ksiv. We're talking about a huge amount of animals. That wasn't something that one man could take care of. But Avadia himself, he couldn't have handled all that. Apparently there were other people there as well. Okay, the other people perhaps were the 7,000 righteous Jews that were not Avidah V'Dezara. As we find in the pasuk, I'll leave over in Yisrael Shivas Halofim 7,000. Those who did not bow to the Baal, to the V'Dezara. Perhaps they were involved in the Shechita Tumuri Havu Metamri Me'izevel. They weren't around. They were hiding out from Yezevel, who was pursuing them. Okay, V'Dilma Gavar Da'achav Havu Mali. So we know there were sheichtim, other than just Avadia, but maybe all the other kitchen people in Avadia's kitchen were holy people, righteous people. It's unlikely, can't say that. The pasuk says, like attracts like. Moishel Makshav al Sheker, a leader who's Sheker is not a righteous leader. Kol Mishas of Rishayim, his Misharsim, his servants, his whole entourage, his whole household follows his lead, and we assume they share the same views and opinions as their boss. Okay, V'dil Magavi di Shafat Namilav Amali. So what's the issue? We see that the Rishayim slaughtered all those animals in honor of the entire entourage who came. Okay, maybe Yeshafat himself never partook in the non-kosher meat. He ate from Avadia's meat, the one that Avadia prepared. See, one man for sure was okay, right? Avadia. So maybe he prepared Yeshafat's meal. And in terms of the rest of the crowd, Yeshafat's people, maybe they weren't okay people and they ate from the non-kosher meat. But perhaps the fellows of the Yeshafat Nami also lo have a mali weren't on a high status, and therefore we have enough to go around. Zvoyach Gavri di Achav, so the shechita that the people of Achav performed, Ochel Gavri di Yeshavat, were fed to the people of Yeshafat, who weren't very meticulous in their standards. And Zavoyach Avadia, Ochel Yeshafat. What did Yeshafat eat from Avadia? So who says Yeshafat partook in non-kosher meat? We can't say that. Yeshafat came along with unrighteous people because, again, like attracts like in both ways, good and bad. But the Moishel Makshav Sheker, once we find that a non-okay leader, Kol Mishas of Rishayim, his people likewise are the same ilk, Hold Varemes, so we assume that on the positive side of things, a righteous leader, Mishas Tzadikim, his men are okay, men are righteous. So we have a lot of customers. So how do they have enough kosher meat for everybody? If not, that they partook in the... Says the Gemara, okay, maybe V'dilma, maybe Zvoyach Gavri Da'achav, Achal Achav, V'gavri. Perhaps there are two different arrangements. Achav's people did the shechita for their people. Achal Achav V'gavri, that was meant for Achav and his people. Zvoyach Gavri Yeshafat, Achal Yeshavat V'gavri. Perhaps Yeshavat had his own shechita, his own hashgacha. So they did for themselves, and they ate separately. We moved to Haman Aleph. No. It's unlikely that he would have kept a separate, kitchen there, and kept himself separate from Achav. Rashi says he wouldn't want to arouse any suspicion. The whole point was to engender closeness and develop that alliance with him, he wouldn't want to indicate that he's, sort of untrusting of Achav. How do we know? How do we know that he had that approach? From the pasuk, like you, like me, like your nation, my nation, which means to say we trust each other in matters of Isser v'Heter, Elamiyata. If that's the way you learn this pasuk, how about the next Kesusi Kesusecha? Right? My horse is like your horses. They mean to say my horses rely on your horses' Ashkacha. Achinami, you mean we're talking about in matters of Isser v'Heter, Elamah Dahavi Asusayach Tavasusi. Apparently we're speaking not about, halachic issues, speaking about, joining them in battle, committing to the same, to be on the same side in battle. They were forming a strategic alliance here. So basically what we're saying is whatever happens to your horses, what happens to mine, we'll share the same fate. Hachanami, the same could be said about the first part of the pasuk. My dahavi Allah v'iloi amach. Whatever happens to you and your nation and your people, dahavi Allah v'ilech v'liami will happen to me and my nation. You should say we'll share the same fate. We're on the same page. We're on the same side. We'll fight together. So you have no indication that he was joining him in a meal and trusting him. So what's the raya? Here comes the raya. That he was fully trusting in Yeshafat's standards. Melech Yisrael v'Yeshafat, Melech Yehuda, so two kings, right? Melech Yisrael was Achav and Melech Yehuda was Yeshafat. Yoishim Ishal Kisei was sitting on their respective thrones. Melubashim begodim, wearing royal garments. Begoyren, garden means a granary, a round pile of wheat. Pesach Shar Shomron, at the entry of the Shomron district. Now, what do you mean they sat in the garden? They're sitting in the farm? My garden. Elim garden, I was sitting on the farm. Atu Shar Shomron garden. How do you think the entry to the Shomron city was a farm? Was a garden? Was a granary? Garden? Ella. It's symbolic. They were sitting in a semicircle. Ki garden, like the roundness of a garden. Because it's not as we find by the Sanhedrin, right? They would sit this way so they can see each other. Sanhedrin used to chatzi garden agulo. It was like a half garden. It was a round, semicircle. Why? So the dayanim, the judges, can face each other and see each other while they're deliberating. They can see each other. And the message in the pasuk here is that likewise, Yeshafat and Achav was sitting in full camaraderie and friendship, facing each other, interacting. You like the Dayanim Sanhedrin, right? And the mood was of a positive, trusting mood. So we have a raya that in fact he would not do anything to endanger that perception of friendship and closeness, and we assume that he did partake in the meal. Hence, we have a right of Anamar Shmuel that he trusted Achav's people with respect to Shechita being okay. Okay, let's recap today's daf. Akuti. So we learned that we could trust the kuti, provided that there is oversight. What degree of oversight we had a machlekes on. What about things which are not really sourced in the Torah, but we know they keep to it? We have machlekes on that. We discussed Rav's chiddush. A murmur or nevelas al te'avim to be trusted if you provide him with the knife and it's just a matter of doing it right. Why wouldn't he do it right? Just like we find by the chametz, and we sought to bring a raya from the case of chametz. We sought to bring a raya from the brisa as well, from the heter of the Yisrael mummer. But the Gemara negated that raya. That perhaps is talking about Avodah Zarah, which supports Rav Amar Shmuel, actually, a different sugya. But who says by a fellow who's uncareful with nevela? You see, in that matter, he's not careful. Why would you trust him? But we went on to the next discussion of Amar Shmuel, that Yisrael mummer Avodah Zarah could be trusted for shechita, and the raya was from Yeshafat who partook in the meat that was offered served by Achav and his people. That's right. The Rav Amar Shmuel will continue as Hashem on this topic tomorrow. All the best to you and Atzlach.